ASMR Who, and this, which is the penultimate video, for now at least, in my journey through the Big Finish main range, the monthly adventures. And today we are talking about a loose sort of trilogy, I suppose, of stories that are about classic Doctor Who villains. Of course, talking about Omega, Davros, and Master. So yeah, let's crack on even with the first of those being Omega, which is written by Nev Fountain. This is about a sort of it's like a museum about Omega and his story, and at this point in time he is a sort of fabled hero who created time travel and then was lost, and there's this story about him, and they have sort of reenactments, and they sell it, and the Doctor comes along, and of course Omega sort of returns. This was decent, this was fun. It's a little bit sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say trippy, but it does mess with you a little bit, and there is a big twist in the part 3 cliffhanger, I think, or into part 4. There's a big vehicle outside it, if you heard that. Yeah, there's a big twist near the end, which I'm not going to spoil, because I think it's really exciting, and it's one of those twists that really plays with the medium of audio. You wouldn't really be able to do it, certainly not as well, if this was on TV, because the visuals, unless you were very, very careful, the visuals would give it away. But on audio, you don't have that problem. But it's still able to convey what the twist is. And so that's really great about it. I will say as well, I was glad to have seen the story Arc of Infinity, which is, I wouldn't say required reading for understanding this, but it does help. I don't remember loads about Arc of Infinity. I remember it was not a story I much cared for, but yeah, nonetheless I was glad that I had watched it and had that context for this story. Aside from that, I thought the performances were decent in this. I think Omega as a character is interesting enough. I think that what they do with him here is very interesting. Something that kind of, no, I was gonna say something that runs through all 3 of these stories, but it doesn't really. But there are sort of flashbacks to Omega's past in this, which are interesting, to learn more about his past. I don't have too much else to say about this story in particular, though, to be honest. I enjoyed it. I think of the 3, it's the one that I would say engaged me the least, but that implies that it didn't engage me. It did, I just preferred the other 2 a little bit more, I think, but by no means a bad story. It's still very, very strong, and the twist at the end does sort of recontextualize everything in a really exciting and interesting way. And then we move on to Davros by Lance Parkin. because Davros talks about dealing with the famine, which he deals with in Revelation of the Daleks. It also kind of plays on the fact that Davros and the Doctor seem familiar with each other in Revelation of the Daleks, even though on TV that's the first time Davros has met this version of the Doctor. The other thing, it references Perry. She's away on a botany tour or something. But this deals with basically Davros being resurrected by people because they think he's dead, but he's not. He wakes up. And then becomes him and the Doctor have to work together for this tech company, I suppose, to create this technology. And there's some very fishy, like this company is run by this married couple, the wife of which is played by Wendy Papri, who is Zoe in the classic series. The Doctor's also working with a journalist and like a computer scientist who works for the company. And he's just trying to uncover sort of what's going on, why they want Davros, then what Davros is up to separately. And of course, as you might imagine, these people get, sort of employ Davros as someone who works for them, and that's not a spoiler because it's in the synopsis. But then obviously he ends up sort of taking control and enacting his plans. There was a lot of like corporate mumbo jumbo in this, which I could have done without. But Terry Malloy is still very interesting, still very very engaging. And yeah, in this as well you get flashbacks to Davros's past before he had his accident, and you learn of this car-led scientist called Shen who worked with him basically to form the idea of the Daleks. She came up with the name and stuff, which of course that's been retconned by Destination Scarro, but I think that short is rubbish anyway, so I'll ignore it. What else? Yeah, and Davros has this, this colleague, and there's an implication that maybe he did love her, but his mind is so twisted in a way where he doesn't even realise that, like, that's the emotion he's feeling, is love. And he just has this idea that he doesn't feel things, but clearly he does because he's evil and sadistic. But he's got a good time. Terry Malloy's really great. He's great not only as the Davros as we know, but Davros pre-accident. Colin's really good in this story. He's got a great dynamic with Davros. You'll have to forgive me, I'm yawning. Yeah, it was just a fun dynamic for the both of them in this one. Less sort of surprising and twisty and turny, but pretty decent nonetheless. And then finally is Master, which is written by Joseph Lidster, which I think this one was my favourite of the three. Very much vibes of the Chimes of Midnight. Not quite as good as that story, but honestly I think if every Doctor Who story was set in a big creepy old house and there was a mystery of people dying, I'd be happy. this one, Dr. John Smith invites his closest friends to his house, his like manor house, to celebrate his birthday, and it's this sort of Victorian Edwardian vibe. And it's Geoffrey Beevers as the master, of course, but when you're listening, Dr. John Smith is played by Geoffrey Beevers. So what's going on there? Because also, not only is it the voice of Geoffrey Beevers, and so you think, oh, it's the master, but it's not the master in a disguise. Dr. John Smith is a good man. He is a genuine doctor who helps people. He is, he's very friendly. He takes good care of his friends. He's thoughtful. He's kind. He's emotionally mature. He is well-mannered. He doesn't kill people, but it's not a case of double casting because he's got a disfigured face as this version of the master that we sort of were reintroduced to in the story Dust Breeding. The master does at the moment. He's sort of decayed a little bit still, like he was in The Keeper of Track, and not quite to that extent, but but yeah, this one was really great. Sylvester McCoy is barely in the first part, of 4, and it's also framed as this. He's telling a story to the Doctor is telling this story to a hitman, I think, like a hired assassin. But I thought that this was really interesting. I really liked the character of John Smith, and I like the idea that is there something going on with the house? The house is making these people act very strangely and out of character. And that was really intriguing, but I really liked the performances here. I liked the story. I liked what it does with the master. Who, for a story title master, I don't think the master's in it much, to be honest. But he is and he isn't, But it's a really exciting, it's really intriguing. And you get, not quite flashbacks, but you get a story about the Doctor and the Master as children, and they were bullied, and one of them killed the bully, whilst the bully, whose name is Torvik, I think, was bullying the other one. One of the two friends killed the bully. I'm saying it like that because that's the way it is. It's told as a story to the characters in the story, and so that's the way they tell it, and that's the way I'm going to tell it to you if you're unaware. But yeah, I thought that this was really great, and it ends up becoming a little bit more high concept than you might initially think, but I had a really great time with this one. I had a great time with all 3 of these, to be honest. And yeah, I really liked the story. I liked all 3 of these stories. I think they progressively got better for me, but Omega's still a pretty strong story. So yeah, let me know, have you listened to these stories? Do you like, which is your favourite? If you haven't, these do come in a bundle, all 3 of them as a trilogy, basically, so you can buy them all together. And yeah, that's other than that, that is my thoughts on those 3 stories. So join me next time what will be, at least for now, the final video in this Big Finish journey. And then I'll do some, probably a ranking and stuff. But next time is the big one. It'll be a video on its own, of course, and it is Zagreus, which I have heard a great many things about. I don't know if I'm anticipating it or dreading it or kind of both, but join me next week for that. It'll be next week. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Please do like if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't and you liked these sorts of videos. Comment, and I will see you next week for Zagreus.